There's something almost every Christian ignores in their own home, thinking it's just a harmless problem of time. But that thing is silently killing your spiritual sensitivity every single day. And most people never see it. What I'm about to show you isn't about cleaning for aesthetics or productivity. This goes much deeper than that. You're going to leave this video knowing exactly how your environment is blocking your clarity and peace of mind. And you'll understand why trying to pray or truly focus inside a space like that almost never actually works out. There was a period in my life when my room became an exact mirror of what was happening deep inside me, you know?
The mess just kept piling up. I'd try to seek God there, try to focus, but all I felt was this deep heaviness.
A sense of distance I couldn't explain at all. I didn't understand why it felt that way to Noun, and that made it worse. What I discovered tame, why emotionally broken people almost always abandon their own space first. Pay attention to this. One quick thing before we get into it. If this kind of content makes sense to you, discernment applied to real-life behaviors that seem normal but are silently destroying people it's genuinely worth subscribing to this channel. We post new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, always covering the same kind of content and direction. And if you think there's someone in your own life who genuinely needed to hear this, go ahead and like the video. Because that's exactly how this content reaches the people who actually need it. With that said, let's get into it. When people talk about keeping a clean house, most of them picture something very specific. Cleanliness is hygiene. It's organization, not letting things pile up. That thing your mom taught you, bed made, plate washed, floor clean. And in Christian circles, that idea got an extra layer. You've probably heard some version. God is a God of order, that the Bible says everything should be done decently and in order, that the Christian home should be a place of peace.
And that makes sense. It sounds solid. It has a foundation. Cleanliness as responsibility, as reflection of who you are.
And for a long time, when I thought about a clean house, I thought about just two things: character or discipline.
The version I was taught. Keeping a clean house is good. It's right. It's healthy. Whoever doesn't needs discipline.
That version is everywhere. In books, in devotionals, in sermons about stewardship. Everyone agrees. Seems obvious. But that version doesn't explain why people who were once organized, who kept everything in its place, suddenly stop. Why the space gradually falls apart unnoticed at the beginning, and why that almost always coincides with one specific season of life. Pay attention to this. The version you were taught says keeping a clean house is a matter of discipline, period. But there's a real question that version never actually asks. Why do people who had that habit for years suddenly stop? It wasn't a decision. It wasn't laziness. The environment fell apart gradually, and they didn't notice when it started. When I started noticing this pattern, it bothered me. Saying they just needed more willpower didn't explain what I saw. The missing piece is this: the environment isn't just a result of your inner state. It's also a symptom of it, and it's almost always the first symptom, the one that shows up before any words, before any conscious awareness. The bed stops getting made, things start accumulating, the space gets heavy corn, and the person can't even name it yet.
Research on cognitive overload shows that chaotic environments raise cortisol and reduce focus. It's not abstract. The version you were taught saw the environment as a consequence and left out that it also speaks before you can.
It's not just that a piece is missing, the whole logic is built backwards. That premise seems obvious, but it's wrong. You're doing well on the inside, the house stays clean. You're struggling, the house gets messy. Simple, linear, wrong. Because what environmental psychology shows is that the relationship isn't one-directional. The environment shapes you. It actively shapes who you become. You're not just living in a chaotic environment, team. You're being formed by it daily.
When I understood that, I had to rethink a lot. I'd spent years trying to fix my inner state, never touching the space.
As if the environment was just the symptom pawns, and if I dealt with the root, the symptom would disappear on its own. But the root and the environment feed each other. Think about it, Faye. You wake up in a messy room, surfaces overloaded. Before you've made a single choice for the day, your cognitive system is already processing dozens of unresolved inputs. Cortisol has spiked, mental fatigue has started. Then you try to pray, try to focus pout, and it feels heavy, distant.
You think it's a spiritual problem, an emotional problem. But the environment was working against you from the start. The wrong premise. Treating the environment as passive when it's active, and building your approach on top of that, means you're fighting a current you yourself are feeding. This wasn't taught with bad intent, but it has real costs.
So let's put together what you've already seen here. The version you were taught? It's incomplete in one key way.
It never told you the environment is also a symptom, and that single missing piece carries a very real daily cost.
Those two things together create something real. Damage happening right now in the lives of people who can't see it. The damage isn't vague. It's the person who stops reading their Bible and genuinely has no idea why it happened.
It was a gradual pulling away, starting in accumulated fatigue, in the constant drain of a space that depletes nonstop.
It's the Christian who starts to feel irritated by church, by sermons, by prayer. Things that used to feed them. Who thinks it's a spiritual problem? But the environment was already raising cortisol and reducing their focus.
Research shows chronically disorganized spaces impair decision-making and increase impulsive behavior. Less consistent. I've been in that cycle trying to rebuild inside while the space I lived in undid the work, without seeing the link.
This doesn't pull you away from God at once. It does it slowly, and the first signs appear before you even know why.
Before you even know something is wrong, the environment was already speaking, and because no one taught you to read it,
you ignored the signal entirely, and the cycle just kept going high, quietly, in the background, every single day. What I need to show you now is what's underneath all of this trance, what's actually true, and what changes when you get it. Recognizing this cycle when you hear it is one thing. Seeing where it's operating in your own routine is something else.
We carry so many habits we don't even notice. That's why I'd invite you to subscribe Tulling. We cover this every week.
and by leaving a like on this video, you'll help other people who need to see it, and it only takes 2 seconds. Now, back to what really matters here, because what comes next is where all of this starts to make real sense.
So let's go back to the beginning. What you were taught said cleanliness is discipline. Proud. You decide, you maintain. But there was a key piece missing. And the mistake was treating space as something passive, when it never was.
That has a real cost, spiritually, emotionally, and practically. The truth is actually simpler than the confusion. You live inside a space, and that space speaks about you, but it also speaks to you, at the same time, every day.
This isn't a new discovery spiritually. The Bible has shown this for a long time, through principles we rarely apply. It was organized because presence requires preparation. The temple, the moments of prayer, the important decisions. The moments of prayer and spiritual decisions almost always came alongside silence, cleanliness, and intention.
Important spiritual choices almost always came with separation and quiet. That's not coincidence, that's the principle. It wasn't superstition, it was the recognition that attention requires silence, and silence itself requires order. Keeping the environment clean isn't just discipline, it's an act of vigilance, of saying you're still taking care.
That care creates emotional and spiritual continuity, to know you're still here, still standing,
still paying attention. Cleanliness doesn't save the soul, but it opens or it closes the space where the soul actually gets to breathe. If the environment is passive for just a reflection time, the logic is, take care of the inside and the outside will follow.
If it's active, a reflection and a shaper, the logic changes. You take care of both, because one feeds the other.
And ignoring one side while working the other is like rowing a boat with only one oar. You don't get very far. The right approach isn't cleanliness for aesthetics. It's caring for the environment as a practice of vigilance. The difference between the wrong approach and the right one isn't effort, it's direction. And that changes everything.
The person trying to fix everything on the inside was working hard, but in a direction that ignored half the problem. The person who understands the relationship between space and inner state works both and sees the difference in days. When I changed my relationship with my own environment, not as a chore, but as part of daily spiritual care, the clarity that came back wasn't slow. It was surprisingly fast. Not because cleanliness is magic, it genuinely isn't. Not because cleanliness is magic, but because I finally stopped fighting a current I myself had been feeding all along. A study from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology showed that people describing their homes as cluttered had higher cortisol all day long compared to those who described their space as restorative or organized, measurable. The environment actively influences your biology and your ability to sustain any consistent spiritual practice at all.
Caring for your environment isn't parallel to spiritual life. It is part of it, Tayin, the temple principle, brought home. Now I'm going to show you exactly how to do this in practice. A row. No complicated system, no perfectionism, no pressure.
The first step is the most important and it's the most confusing. The old logic, when I feel better, I'll clean. You waited for your inner state to improve so you could then take care of the space. Now you know that's backwards. So the first step is the exact opposite. Take care of the environment first, especially when you're not doing well. Not because it'll fix everything, but because it stops feeding the cycle. Start with the smallest space possible. Just the space where you spend the most time or start your day. The goal is one solid point of order to neighbor. That's it.
Step 2. Treat it as a practice, not just a task. A task you do to finish. A practice you cultivate every single day.
When I started making my bed as an intentional act, not mechanical, the quality of that moment changed. Its presence. Step 3 Prime, the 24-hour rule. Don't let the environment show neglect for more than a day. That's all it takes.
Lose the thread for 3 or 4 days and accumulation builds fast. 1 day is recoverable. A week already weighs.
Step 4-2. Identify the most neglected space right now. Which one are you avoiding? That's where the signal is loudest.
When I started, the hardest part wasn't the cleaning itself. It was letting go of waiting to feel okay before I started.
The old impulse, resolve what's heavy inside first, then organize. The new logic says the opposite, and it works.
It seems small, but it's not. This isn't just theory, Tay. Let me show you how this shows up in situations you'll recognize. I'll give you 2 examples. One is mine. The other is a pattern I've seen repeat itself enough to not be coincidence. Mine first. There was a period when I was trying to rebuild spiritual discipline after a long season of distance.
I'd try to pray, try to read, try to build a routine time, and I couldn't sustain it. 2 days would work, then it broke.
I kept thinking the problem was inside. Lack of commitment, lack of faith, lack of something I needed to resolve first. The room I slept in was a pile of stuff. Clothes draped over the chair. A desk covered with things that had no place. Nothing dramatic, just the gradual accumulation of someone who'd stopped caring without noticing when it started. One day I cleaned it up, not out of discipline, out of exhaustion. 40 minutes. And the next day, I prayed.
It wasn't some kind of epiphany. It was just that the space wasn't working against me for the first time in weeks. I kept going for days. The routine that never lasted past 3 days started holding because the space had changed. The second example is a pattern I've seen consistently in people coming out of periods of emotional or spiritual crisis. The recovery almost always starts with something small and physical, not a revelation, not a life-changing sermon.
It starts with the bed made, the kitchen clean. That first gesture, I'm still taking care of this, opens something.
People in quiet emotional collapse, of the ones who still seem fine, still function almost always have an environment that's already revealing what they haven't said out loud yet. The space always speaks before the person even can.
These aren't scientific proof, observed patterns. The change never came from more effort, it came from direction.
It came from stopping the habit of ignoring the very signal the environment was already giving every single day.
But I'd be dishonest if I skipped the nuances. First, this isn't about a perfect home or being most organized.
It's not a measuring stick for judging anyone torn, including yourself. Cluttered space right now? That's not a verdict.
It doesn't mean God is far or your faith doesn't count. It says where you are, and where you are is a starting point. The version you were taught had one thing right: the interior matters. The problem wasn't that, it was stopping there.
Caring for the interior is real. The nuance is that the environment and inner state feed each other. It's both, not one.
Second, results aren't immediate everywhere. What changes fast is the clarity. The space stops working against you.
What takes longer is the pattern consolidating. 1 week doesn't undo months of the opposite. That's not failure.
Pay attention. If you clean tomorrow and don't feel a profound shift in 3 days, that's not a sign it doesn't work.
It's a sign you're just starting, not finishing. That distinction matters more than people usually give it credit for.
Third TAM, and this is the most important. There are people at a level of emotional exhaustion or real depression,
where caring for the environment alone isn't the right first step. Pushing for organization before that is backwards.
The mess in those cases is a symptom of something that needs deeper care first. The environment speaks, but sometimes you need to respond to what's underneath before responding to the environment. That's not an exception, it's the truth.
What I showed here isn't a solution to everything. It's a piece almost everyone ignores. And that always has a cost.
But treating this piece as the only one would also be oversimplifying something that is genuinely not that simple.
After everything shown here, the plan is surprisingly simple, because now you're building on the right foundation. Step 1. Identify the most neglected space right now. Which room gives you a weight you've learned to quietly ignore? That's your entry point. Not because it's the easiest part, but because that's exactly where the signal is the loudest.
Step 2. Give it 10 to 15 minutes today. Just today. Not a full cleaning. Not a complete reorganization.
One concrete act of care. Bed made. Surface cleared. Floor free. Enough for the space to stop working against you. Step 3 handy. Treat that gesture as a practice, not a task. You're not cleaning to finish. You're cultivating something.
You're saying with a physical act that you're still present. That the space where you live deserves attention.
Step 4 tamed. Sustain it with the 24-hour rule. Don't let the environment show neglect for more than a day.
1 day is recoverable. A week starts to pile up. It's not about spotless, it's about not losing the thread too long. 2 points from what was said earlier. If you're at a level of real exhaustion where this plan feels impossible,
start with the smallest possible gesture of not the biggest space. And don't expect deep transformation in 3 days.
Pattern takes longer to consolidate. That's not failure. What you learned here isn't an organization technique. It's a different way of seeing the link between the space you inhabit and who you're becoming. And it can't be undone. You came into this video with one understanding of cleanliness. I hope you leave here with a completely different one. What this video showed is simple but uncomfortable. The environment where you live is not neutral. It speaks to you. The biggest danger isn't a messy room. It's living on autopilot without doing the work of seeing your own patterns. Tell me in the comments, which environment in your life have you been quietly neglecting, one you've normalized? I read the comments, and if someone came to mind while watching, someone who seems fine but is accumulating inside, send this video to them. Sometimes a video reaches where a conversation can't. That matters more than it might seem. If you're not subscribed yet, subscribe. Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, always this kind of alert. Think about that.